So this is a longer video. I got the idea to do one of those long compilation videos from a viewer, and I put together over an hour of my SpongeBob lore videos into a big one to help people sleep or just chill out. I have edited out the outros from each video to save your eardrums. Plankton, Mr. Krabs' eternal nemesis, inventor of endless high-tech machines and owner of the failing Chum Bucket. But if his restaurant is a financial disaster, how does he afford everything? Where does Plankton get the money to build his countless inventions, afford his supercomputer wife, Karen, and maintain his high-tech laboratory? What if Plankton is secretly far wealthier than Mr. Krabs and hides it to fuel his obsession with the Krabby Patty formula? In this theory, we'll explore Plankton's hidden fortune, his shady income sources, and why wealth alone isn't enough for him. Part 1. Plankton's hidden fortune. At first glance, Plankton seems like a broke businessman. His restaurant, the Chum Bucket, is consistently empty and has been an embarrassing failure for years. Episode after episode, we see him trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula instead of building his business legitimately. But that's exactly what makes the whole situation suspicious. How does a guy who supposedly earns no money from his restaurant afford building endless, high-tech gadgets? Think about it. Plankton has created everything from giant robots to mind control devices and advanced submarines. These aren't cheap projects. One of his most elaborate schemes is seen in Plankton's army, where he recruits an army of his relatives and uses high-tech machinery to launch a full-on assault on the Krusty Krab.
Come to the Krusty Krab, sir. May I help you?
Yes, please. I'd like an order of chili coral bit. Will this cover it?
Sure. Here you go.
Good day.
Then there's Imitation Krabs, where Plankton constructs an advanced robotic replica of Mr. Krabs in an attempt to deceive SpongeBob and steal the Krabby Patty secret formula. This robot isn't just a simple disguise, it's a highly sophisticated piece of technology with voice mimicry and functional limbs.
I'll do the talking around here. I think I'll just ask you two a couple of questions. Questions only the real Mr. Krabs can answer.
Okay, then.
First question. What time does the Krusty Krab open?
9:30 a.m.
Right! That's one strike, Mr. Fake.
But
Ta-da! I'm running this quiz show. I'll ask the questions.
Also, in Computer Overload, he builds 3 different types of advanced robots. These robots require power sources, mechanical precision, and advanced engineering, yet Plankton manages to create them effortlessly. And we can't forget his biggest invention, Karen, Plankton's supercomputer wife. She's not your everyday computer. Karen is equipped with advanced AI, a seemingly unlimited database, and capabilities that would rival even the smartest tech today. So, how does Plankton afford to build this in the first place, and how does he pay the insane prices of maintaining his gadgets and his wife Karen? It's hard to believe a failing restaurant like the Chum Bucket could fund these inventions. They require a steady and significant stream of income, one that Plankton keeps under wraps. He must have a secret source of income. Part 2. Plankton's shady prison and crime income. The answer to Plankton's hidden wealth lies in an overlooked clue from the episode The Inmates of Summer. In the episode, SpongeBob and Patrick accidentally end up on a prison ship. As part of their punishment for misbehaving, the warden puts them in solitary confinement by lowering them into a deep pit filled with chum. Yes, chum. Plankton's signature product. The container even has the Chum Bucket logo on it. This is no coincidence. The fact that prisons use chum as a form of punishment suggests something much larger at play.
Now pay attention, worms. Watch the way they crawl out on their bellies begging for mercy, and see what's waiting for you next time you foul up the same way these two did.
Think about how many prisons there could be across Bikini Bottom and the surrounding ocean. If multiple prisons rely on chum for disciplinary purposes, that's a consistent and potentially massive income stream for Plankton. And since chum is cheap to produce, likely made from leftover or unwanted sea creatures, it's pure profit. But the prison connection doesn't stop there. In the episode Jailbreak, we see criminals using chum as a tool to commit crimes. Whether they're smuggling it, using it as bait, or involving it in illegal schemes, chum is clearly a product in high demand within the criminal underworld. This suggests that Plankton might have lucrative, under-the-table deals with criminals who rely on chum. While Mr. Krabs works tirelessly to earn each penny through legal means, Plankton could be raking in huge sums from shady deals without anyone noticing.
Oh, it's working! It's twisting my appearance!
What a hideous monster! Please take this money so I don't have to look at your disgusting features!
Plankton's financial strategy might be similar to how real-world criminals make fortunes off low-cost, high-demand products. His public persona as a struggling restaurant owner allows him to fly under the radar while quietly amassing wealth. It's genius, and just a little bit evil. Part 3. Why Plankton still wants to steal the Krabby Patty formula. If Plankton is so rich, why does he keep obsessing over the Krabby Patty formula? Why risk everything for something he clearly doesn't need financially? The answer lies in Plankton's mind. It's not about money, it's about control, revenge, and jealousy. Plankton's rivalry with Mr. Krabs goes back to their childhood, as seen in the episode Friend or Foe. As kids, Plankton and Krabs worked together to create the Krabby Patty formula, but their friendship fell apart when Mr. Krabs became the more successful businessman.
This isn't about money, Eugene!
Maleki!
You'll regret this one day!
Ouch!
Huh? Our little squabble only got me part of the recipe.
Ever since then, Plankton has been consumed by envy. Despite his secret fortune, he can't stand the fact that Mr. Krabs has something he can't have: the success and admiration that come with running the Krusty Krab. Plankton's obsession isn't just about beating Mr. Krabs financially, it's about proving he can win. No amount of wealth can fill the void of being seen as a failure. In many ways, the Krabby Patty formula represents the one thing that Plankton's money can't buy. It's the ultimate symbol of what he's always wanted: respect, success, and the ability to defeat his rival once and for all. The conclusion: Plankton's wealth is hidden, but his motivations are not. Plankton might be hiding a fortune behind the walls of the Chum Bucket, funding his high-tech inventions through shady business deals, prison contracts, and criminal networks. But despite his wealth, he's trapped in a cycle of obsession. The Krabby Patty formula isn't just a recipe, it's a symbol of everything Plankton feels he's been denied in life. His rivalry with Mr. Krabs is what drives him, not the need for money. In the end, Plankton's story is one of hidden potential and missed opportunities. He could be living a life of luxury, but instead he's fixated on a rivalry that might never end. Why Bikini Bottom hates SpongeBob. SpongeBob is the most cheerful and hard-working sponge in all of Bikini Bottom. But there is a problem. Bikini Bottom hates him. Residents often roll their eyes and make fun of him. It seems like SpongeBob is one of the least liked people in town. But why? Why does Bikini Bottom constantly treat SpongeBob like an annoyance instead of the friendly neighbor he tries to be? In this video, we will uncover the real reason why no one in Bikini Bottom can stand SpongeBob SquarePants. And by the end, you might just find yourself understanding the citywide hatred against him. Part 1. The constant negativity of Bikini Bottom. To understand why SpongeBob gets treated so poorly, we first have to acknowledge something strange about Bikini Bottom. Most of its residents are extremely rude. The people that make up the city are some of the most impatient, angry, and downright aggressive characters in the show. A perfect example of this is in the episode Chocolate with Nuts, where an angry fish loses his mind for the chocolate SpongeBob's selling. He chases SpongeBob and Patrick through town, screaming at the top of his lungs.
Chocolate? Did you say chocolate?
Yes, sir! With or without nuts.
Chocolate? Chocolate! 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 Chocolate!
Now, most of these moments are played for comedy, but they paint a picture of a city where people are constantly on edge. It seems like Bikini Bottom is filled with short-tempered citizens who have no patience for anything that even slightly inconveniences them. And unfortunately for SpongeBob, his personality is the exact opposite of what Bikini Bottom wants. Keep this in mind, we will need it later. SpongeBob can be super energetic, overly friendly, and always wants to interact with people, even when they're not in the mood. He doesn't really notice social cues, his laugh can get kind of annoying, and he often ends up accidentally causing chaos. That's part of why a lot of the people in Bikini Bottom aren't exactly his biggest fans. Do you ever feel like SpongeBob can be a bit too much sometimes? If you agree, hit that subscribe button. One of the biggest examples of Bikini Bottom's hatred against SpongeBob is shown in the episode Gone, where we learn about National No SpongeBob Day. a day where the entire town packs up and leaves just to avoid SpongeBob. The fact that Bikini Bottom went to the extreme of creating an entire holiday dedicated to escaping him is proof of just how little they want to deal with him. And the worst part? SpongeBob had no idea it even existed. That means the whole town secretly planned this behind his back, and it wasn't just a one-time thing, it's a yearly event.
Where did you go?
It was National No SpongeBob Day!
National No SpongeBob Day?
Yeah! A whole day dedicated to getting away from you.
A day? But you guys have been away for weeks.
Yeah, well, we kind of milked it a little.
But if SpongeBob's so over the top, why doesn't everyone just ignore him? Why does the whole town feel the need to constantly shut him down? That's where things start to get really interesting. Part 2. SpongeBob's disruptive nature. Even though SpongeBob's whole thing is spreading positivity, he somehow ends up creating a ton of problems. Whether he means to or not, he's always messing up the day-to-day lives of everyone in Bikini Bottom. Even his job at the Krusty Krab, the one place where he's respected for his skills, can get out of hand. In Pickles, we see that SpongeBob is the only one who can perfectly make a Krabby Patty, meaning the entire city depends on him for food. But in episodes like The Algae's Always Greener, we see that when he doesn't have guidance, his enthusiasm becomes overwhelming to the point where he drives customers away instead of serving them. This all ties into why Bikini Bottom hates him. It's not just that SpongeBob is annoying, it's that his personality is too much for the people around him. He's too happy, too loud, too energetic, and too disruptive. And when you live in a town full of impatient and short-tempered fish, that kind of energy isn't exactly welcomed. Part 3. A reflection of the real world. This all begs the question, why is Bikini Bottom written this way? Why does it seem like the entire town is constantly miserable, while SpongeBob is the only one having fun? The answer is that Bikini Bottom is a reflection of the real world. Think about it. In real life, there are always those people who stay upbeat no matter what. People who genuinely love what they do, get hyped over little things, and always try to see the good in others. But for some reason, society tends to judge them. They get labeled as naive, childish, or even annoying just because they don't vibe with the cynical, fast-paced grind of the modern world. SpongeBob represents those people. He's the kind of person who's endlessly enthusiastic, who finds joy in his work, and who sees the world as a place full of possibilities. But Bikini Bottom, it represents society, the angry customers, the impatient workers, and the people who just want to get through their day without someone forcing happiness onto them. National No SpongeBob Day was a perfect example of this. In real life, people often feel overwhelmed by those who are too cheerful or too excited, even if they have good intentions. SpongeBob is the embodiment of pure happiness, and Bikini Bottom is a world that simply doesn't know how to handle that kind of energy. And yet, even with all the rejection, SpongeBob never lets it get to him. He continues being himself, no matter how much Bikini Bottom pushes him away. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real message of the show. Being yourself, even when the world doesn't accept you, is one of the hardest but most important things you can do.
Tickles!
Why does Bikini Bottom hate SpongeBob? So, why does Bikini Bottom hate SpongeBob? The answer is simple. He disrupts their way of life. He's loud, energetic, and too happy for a town full of impatient, short-tempered citizens. His excitement often leads to chaos, and instead of seeing him as well-meaning, they see him as an annoying distraction. But at the same time, they depend on him. He's the glue that keeps the Krusty Krab running. He's always there to help, and deep down, even Bikini Bottom knows that life would be much more boring without him. Squidward Tentacles, the cashier at the Krusty Krab, the man who sighs more than he speaks, and the ultimate symbol of workplace misery. But have you ever stopped to ask, why does Squidward actually hate his job? Is it just SpongeBob's constant energy? Is it Mr. Krabs being a cheapskate? Or is there a deeper reason, one that explains not only his hatred for the Krusty Krab, but his entire view on life? In this video, we'll uncover the real reason Squidward hates his job, and it might just change the way you see him forever. Part 1. The Krusty Krab is Squidward's personal prison. On the surface, it looks simple. Squidward hates his job because it's loud, repetitive, and pays next to nothing. But this goes way beyond being annoyed with SpongeBob or flipping patties for minimum wage. The Krusty Krab is more than just a fast food joint. It's the physical manifestation of Squidward's failure. Remember, Squidward sees himself as a misunderstood genius. He believes he was destined to be a world-class artist or a legendary clarinet player, but every day he punches in at a grease-stained register and takes orders from rude customers who barely notice he exists. It's not just boring, it's humiliating. Every second spent there is a reminder that his dreams never went anywhere. And even in those moments, Squidward would still subscribe, and so should you. In episodes like Squid on Strike, Squidward doesn't just want better working conditions, he wants dignity. He wants to be taken seriously, but no one, not even Mr. Krabs, sees him as anything more than a replaceable cashier. And yet, when he finally quits, the world doesn't embrace his talent. He's not snapped up by a symphony or art gallery. He's left broke, jobless, and crawling back to the same place that crushes him every day. This is the cycle Squidward lives in, feeling stuck between a dream he still clings to and a job he can't afford to lose. It's more than just hate, it's quiet desperation. Keep this in mind as we get into what makes this even worse. SpongeBob. Part 2, SpongeBob makes everything worse. Imagine being forced to work next to someone who is obsessed with the thing you hate most. That's Squidward's life. SpongeBob shows up every single day with a smile so wide it should be illegal, treating every Krabby Patty like it's a work of fine art. He doesn't just like the job, he lives for it. And unfortunately, he wants Squidward to feel the same. Here's the thing about SpongeBob in Employee of the Month. He takes an easy fast food job and cranks it up to Olympic level intensity. And the crazy part, he's not even trying to be annoying, he genuinely thinks he's hyping everyone up. But for Squidward, it's pure psychological torture. All he wants is to zone out, survive his shift, and maybe quietly question his life choices in peace. Instead, he gets roped into this absurd corporate Hunger Games, where the prize is a paper crown and Mr. Krabs' fake praise. SpongeBob's not just playing the game, he's rewriting the rules to turn every shift into a competition. And Squidward, he never even signed up for this mess.
There's nothing to this patty flipping, Mr. Krabs. I'll easily double your output, Sponge Hog.
Boys! What? Help!
Then there's Graveyard Shift. A quiet night shift finally gives Squidward a chance to mess with SpongeBob. So he makes up a ghost story, the hash-slinging slasher, just to scare him a little and shut him up. But like always, SpongeBob somehow flips the script. The joke backfires. A series of bizarre events convince them both that the story is real. And in the end, it's Squidward who ends up terrified. Even when he tries to take control, SpongeBob's chaotic energy spins everything out of orbit. In Squid's Day Off, Mr. Krabs leaves Squidward in charge of the Krusty Krab. Seeing an opportunity, Squidward decides to take the day off, leaving SpongeBob to manage both the register and the grill. However, paranoia consumes Squidward as he imagines SpongeBob mishandling the restaurant in his absence. His attempts to relax at home are constantly interrupted by visions of SpongeBob causing chaos, driving him to repeatedly rush back to the Krusty Krab. Each time he finds SpongeBob diligently working, but the cycle of anxiety and frustration leaves Squidward more exhausted than if he had just stayed at work. In Breath of Fresh Squidward, after a mishap with an electric fence, Squidward undergoes a personality change, becoming overly cheerful and friendly, essentially embodying SpongeBob's usual demeanor. This sudden shift leads him to intrude upon SpongeBob's activities and even his job at the Krusty Krab, much to SpongeBob's dismay. The role reversal highlights the extent of SpongeBob's typical intrusiveness and how it affects Squidward, emphasizing the challenges Squidward faces in maintaining his personal boundaries. But here's what really makes it unbearable. Mr. Krabs fuels the whole thing. He sees SpongeBob's non-stop energy as a gold mine. SpongeBob is free overtime, endless labor, and the happiest brand mascot you could imagine. And Squidward? He's the guy slowing things down. To Krabs, Squidward isn't a person. He's a broken cash register who sighs too loudly. So whenever Squidward shows a shred of frustration, he's the one called out, not SpongeBob, not Mr. Krabs. Squidward, the one sane man in a building full of madness, gets blamed for not smiling more, for not being more like SpongeBob. It's not just annoying, It's psychological warfare. Joy has been weaponized against him. He's surrounded by forced positivity, empty compliments, and a system that makes him feel like he's the problem for simply reacting like a normal person in an insane place. And the worst part? There's no escape, not without losing what little security he has left. Part 3. The emotional cost of staying. Here's the part that hits the hardest. Squidward could leave. He could walk out, never look back, and start over somewhere else. But he doesn't. And not because he loves it, not because he's loyal. He stays because deep down, he's afraid. Afraid of what happens if he walks away from the only thing keeping his life somewhat stable. And we've seen what happens when he tries. In Can You Spare a Dime? Squidward finally snaps. He quits with dramatic flair, storms out of the Krusty Krab, and decides he's done being treated like garbage. For a moment, it's empowering. But reality doesn't care about pride. He can't find another job. His savings disappear. The world outside the Krusty Krab isn't kind. It swallows him whole. He ends up homeless, hungry, sleeping on the street in a robe. And who rescues him? SpongeBob. The one person he can't stand. The humiliation is complete. In The Play's the Thing, Squidward attempts to bring culture to the Krusty Krab by staging his own play. He envisions this as his moment to shine, to finally be recognized for his artistic talents. However, Mr. Krabs sees the play merely as a gimmick to attract customers and increase profits. The audience, expecting typical Krusty Krab fare, grows restless and disinterested during Squidward's performance. In a desperate bid to entertain them, SpongeBob inadvertently becomes the star of the show, overshadowing Squidward once again. This episode underscores the futility Squidward feels in his attempts to achieve personal fulfillment within the confines of the Krusty Krab. The Krusty Krab becomes more than a workplace. It becomes a symbol of everything Squidward failed to achieve. He wanted to be an artist, a musician, someone important. Final thoughts. Is Squidward really lazy or just broken? People love to joke that Squidward is lazy or ungrateful. But now that we've broken it all down, is he really? Or is he just someone who's been pushed too far? He once had dreams, ambitions, and confidence. But year after year, the Krusty Krab wore him down. Now he's just trying to survive the shift, block out SpongeBob's laughter, and make it home in one piece. SpongeBob SquarePants. He is supposed to be the lovable, optimistic fry cook who just wants to make jellyfish jelly and flip Krabby Patties. But what if we've had it wrong this entire time? What if SpongeBob isn't the innocent, cheerful hero we all thought he was, but actually the villain of Bikini Bottom? With how often he ruins people's lives, annoys his neighbors, and creates chaos, maybe all the hate he gets from the townspeople is totally justified. Part 1. SpongeBob's destructive personality. Let's start with what SpongeBob does constantly, and that's annoying literally everyone around him. He's overly energetic, completely unaware of personal space, and absolutely relentless when it comes to getting his way. One of the clearest examples is in The Paper, where SpongeBob torments Squidward with a piece of garbage. Squidward just wants to be left alone, but SpongeBob's insistence on playing with the paper, right outside his house, drives him insane. He pretends it's innocent fun, but it clearly crosses into psychological torment. Then there's Squid's Visit, possibly one of the creepiest episodes of the series. SpongeBob literally rebuilds Squidward's entire house inside his own so that Squidward will visit him. That's not quirky, it's obsessive, it's manipulative, it's terrifying. Imagine if your neighbor recreated your house just to force you to hang out with them. That's stalker behavior. And what about the Great Snail Race? SpongeBob forces Gary to race against his will, training him like a drill sergeant until Gary literally collapses. He doesn't even realize how harmful he's being until it's too late. SpongeBob constantly pushes people and pets past their limits, all while acting like he's doing nothing wrong.
Make that 2, folks!
Gary?
Plus a blown head gasket! Oh, and the poor creature's still going for it!
Gary? You can stop now!
And he's losing control!
When you really break it down, SpongeBob's behavior starts to look less like innocent chaos and more like toxic positivity. He steamrolls everyone around him with his energy, ignoring how it affects them, and when things go wrong, he acts surprised. But it happens over and over again. Even though he isn't really innocent, he would still subscribe to this video, and so should you. Part 2. Bikini Bottom hates him, and they might be right. This is where things start to get suspicious. It's not just Squidward who hates SpongeBob. Everyone in Bikini Bottom seems to be sick of him. And maybe that's not just a running joke. It's a sign, in case you haven't guessed. This will become a major issue later. Take Pickles as an example. When SpongeBob temporarily loses his confidence as a fry cook, the customers are thrilled. Bubble Bass complains, sure, but there's this moment where the entire Krusty Krab feels more peaceful without SpongeBob's constant yelling, flipping, and over-the-top energy. Or in No Hat for Pat, when SpongeBob trains Patrick to become a Krusty Krab employee, it ends in complete disaster. And the townspeople blame SpongeBob. They even cheer when Patrick quits. Why? Because SpongeBob was the one encouraging him in the first place, pushing Patrick into something he clearly wasn't ready for. Once again, SpongeBob causes a problem, then acts shocked when things fall apart. Keep this in mind for later. But one of the strongest clues that SpongeBob might actually be feared by the town shows up in Frankendoodle. In the episode, SpongeBob accidentally brings a doodle version of himself to life, Doodlebob. Instead of getting rid of the doodle immediately, SpongeBob treats it like a joke, even as it becomes more dangerous. Doodlebob wreaks havoc across town, attacks Squidward, and nearly destroys SpongeBob's home.
What do you think you're doing, Doodle? You Doodle! Me, SpongeBob! Huh? Be careful with that thing! Who knows what'll happen?
What makes this episode so telling is SpongeBob's reaction. He doesn't fully take it seriously until it's out of control, and instead of warning the town or calling for help, he tries to handle it his way. Meanwhile, the chaos escalates, and innocent people, like Squidward, get caught in the crossfire. This episode feels like a metaphor for SpongeBob himself, something small and silly that gradually becomes a threat. And by the time people realize the danger, it's already too late. If Bikini Bottom seems cold or distant towards SpongeBob, maybe it's because they've learned to expect disaster when he's around. Whether it's with jellyfish, bubble blowers, or sentient drawings, chaos tends to follow SpongeBob everywhere he goes. Part 3. The unintentional chaos of SpongeBob's kindness. SpongeBob isn't evil in the traditional sense. He's not plotting to take over Bikini Bottom or hurt anyone on purpose. But maybe that's what makes him more dangerous. He thinks he's helping. He thinks he's spreading joy and friendship, when in reality, he's making people's lives harder without even realizing it. Take the episode Hall Monitor. SpongeBob is given a small role of authority at boating school, and what does he do? He completely takes over the town. He starts patrolling the streets, causing mass panic while thinking he's doing the right thing. Everyone's afraid of him, and he doesn't even realize he's the cause of the chaos. The police end up searching for a maniac, and the joke is, it's SpongeBob. That episode alone shows just how out of touch he can be with the consequences of his actions. In Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm, SpongeBob's refusal to listen to Sandy and take her seriously nearly gets the whole town eaten by a giant worm. He laughs off her warning, mocks her fear, and convinces the townspeople to go after the wrong target. The result? The worm destroys Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob's belief in his own optimism blinds him to logic and causes real damage. And finally, we can't ignore boating school. It's the foundation of one of the show's longest-running gags, SpongeBob constantly failing to get his license. But what's less discussed is how insanely stressful this must be for Mrs. Puff. SpongeBob's constant crashing puts her in danger, risks the lives of others, and even lands her in jail multiple times. She becomes paranoid, anxious, and traumatized, and SpongeBob never really gets it. He's too cheerful to see how deeply he's affecting her.
I'm ready! Here I come, Mrs. Puff! I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready,
I'm not ready.
I'm ready. Hi, Mrs. Puff! Today is the day I'm gonna pass my boating exam.
When you add all this up, SpongeBob starts to look less like a harmless goofball and more like a walking disaster. His kindness isn't fake, but it's destructive. He means well, but his refusal to acknowledge how his actions affect others makes him more dangerous than he appears. It's no wonder the citizens of Bikini Bottom groan when they see him coming. Remember what I said? To them, he's not a ray of sunshine. He's a storm in square pants. Final thoughts. Is SpongeBob the villain of Bikini Bottom? SpongeBob has caused more destruction, stress, and suffering than almost any other character in Bikini Bottom. But because he does it with a smile, no one holds him accountable. His hyperactive personality, boundary-pushing behavior, and complete disregard for how others feel make him the perfect, unintentional villain. One who thinks he's helping, but constantly makes things worse. From forcing Squidward into misery, to turning every minor situation into chaos, to literally making the town abandon him once a year, SpongeBob might just be the character we should be most concerned about. Mr. Krabs isn't just cheap, he's obsessed. He's sold souls, endangered lives, and betrayed friends, all for pocket change. But is he truly evil, or just a product of his greed? By the end of this video, you might see the Krusty Krab's owner in a whole new light. Part 1. The price of greed. From the very beginning, Mr. Krabs is defined by one thing: money. But this isn't just your average business owner hustle. His obsession with wealth is so intense, it warps his judgment and warps the lives of everyone around him. Take born-again Krabs. After eating a rotten Krabby Patty that he refused to throw out just to avoid wasting a few cents, he literally dies. And when he meets the Flying Dutchman, he begs for a second chance at life. He's told to change his greedy ways. He agrees. He's reborn. And within seconds, the entire lesson goes out the window when he sees a penny on the floor and sells SpongeBob's soul for it. A single penny. That's how cheap life is to Mr. Krabs. Then there's Jellyfish Hunter. After seeing how much customers love jellyfish jelly on their burgers, Mr. Krabs goes full industrial. He tricks SpongeBob into capturing hundreds of jellyfish so he can milk them for jelly in secret. He even hides the operation from SpongeBob, who thinks he's just feeding one happy jellyfish. It's not until SpongeBob finds a massive underground factory that he realizes Mr. Krabs has been running a full-blown jellyfish labor camp. And it gets worse in The Krabby Chronicle. Mr. Krabs realizes he can make money by starting a newspaper. So what does he do? He forces SpongeBob to write sensationalized false stories about the citizens of Bikini Bottom, just to sell more copies. He doesn't care about the damage it causes. He doesn't care whose reputation gets destroyed. As long as it brings in profit, it's worth it. This is the pattern. Over and over again, Mr. Krabs shows us that he isn't just greedy. He's willing to sell out anything and anyone if there's money involved. Souls, animals, friends, truth. It's all for sale. And if you think it stops at strangers, just wait. Because in part 2, we're getting into how Mr. Krabs treats the people closest to him. And it might change how you see him forever. But before we uncover the real truth behind Mr. Krabs, you should subscribe to the channel because there is about 97% of you who didn't subscribe yet. Part 2. Friends, family, and employees. It's one thing to be ruthless in business, but what makes Mr. Krabs' greed truly disturbing is how often it targets the people closest to him. Let's start with SpongeBob, arguably his most loyal employee and closest friend. In episode after episode, Mr. Krabs takes advantage of SpongeBob's loyalty. He doesn't pay him fairly. He makes him do extra work without question. And in Squid on Strike, we find out something wild. SpongeBob doesn't even know what a union is. That's how far Mr. Krabs has gone to keep his workers in the dark. When Squidward and SpongeBob finally try to stand up for themselves, Mr. Krabs' response isn't negotiation, it's trickery. He pretends to agree with them, only to fake an apology and manipulate them into working even harder, for even less. SpongeBob doesn't even realize what happened. Squidward is defeated and Mr. Krabs walks away richer. And then there's the lost mattress. SpongeBob and Patrick replace Mr. Krabs' old mattress, thinking they're doing him a favor. But Mr. Krabs loses his mind, not because he loved the mattress, but because he'd been hiding his entire life savings inside it. He never trusted the bank, he never used a safe, he just shoved cash into a mattress and hoped no one would notice. Even worse, when they agree to retrieve it from the dump, Mr. Krabs refuses to help, because the dump charges a $1 entry fee. He sends them to risk their lives against a vicious guard worm just to avoid spending a single dollar. That's not just greedy, that's psychotic. But it's not just employees. Mr. Krabs treats his own daughter, Pearl, like a tool for financial gain. In Whale of a Birthday, he tries to cheap out on every part of her birthday party, serving ketchup packets and recycling gifts. It's not until SpongeBob steps in that she has anything close to a real celebration. And in Selling Out, when Mr. Krabs finally gets rich by selling the Krusty Krab, you'd think he'd use that money to relax, retire, or spend time with Pearl. Instead, he immediately regrets it, not because he misses the restaurant, but because the new corporate owners don't pinch pennies the way he does. He literally buys the place back. Not to protect SpongeBob, not out of love for his business, but because he can't stand the idea of someone being less greedy than he is. The people around Mr. Krabs aren't friends, family, or co-workers, they're tools, and he uses them over and over again as long as it keeps the money flowing. But what happens when greed like this goes too far? What happens when the town starts to push back? In Part 3, we look at the few rare moments where Mr. Krabs finally faces consequences, and how he always seems to wriggle out of them. Part 3, the consequences that never stick. For someone who's constantly putting others at risk, Mr. Krabs rarely faces real consequences. But every once in a while, the town pushes back, and those moments reveal just how much damage he's capable of causing. Let's start with the scent of money. In this episode, Mr. Krabs discovers that Gary is attracted to money. So what does he do? He uses SpongeBob's pet like a tool, literally tying him to a leash and forcing him to sniff out coins across town. He doesn't just use Gary, he exhausts him, pushes him to the brink, and treats him like a machine. When Gary eventually collapses from exhaustion, Mr. Krabs shows zero guilt. It's dehumanizing, or, well, de-snailizing, and like always he walks away without any real punishment. In Patty Hype, SpongeBob invents colourful pretty patties that customers absolutely love. The Krusty Krab is empty, and Mr. Krabs mocks the idea until he sees SpongeBob getting rich. Instead of congratulating him or learning anything about creativity or innovation, Mr. Krabs tries to take over the business. But when it fails for a reason SpongeBob never even caused, Mr. Krabs gets to walk away, while SpongeBob takes the fall. Again, zero consequences. But maybe the most haunting moment comes in one-course meal. This time, Mr. Krabs targets someone he hates, Plankton. He finds out Plankton has a crippling fear of whales. And what does he do with that knowledge? He uses it to psychologically torment him. Mr. Krabs goes so far as to dress up as a whale and stalk Plankton around town. He drives him into hiding. Plankton becomes so paranoid and broken that he literally tries to end his life. That's not just cruel, it's villain behavior. And how does the show treat it? As a joke, Mr. Krabs walks away laughing, while Plankton gets no justice. These episodes prove a disturbing pattern. Mr. Krabs knows what he's doing. He's not ignorant or clueless. He's calculated. He tests how far he can push people, and when they break, he moves on without remorse. So, is Mr. Krabs evil? Final thoughts. Is Mr. Krabs really the villain of Bikini Bottom? Evil is a strong word. But when someone constantly exploits others, puts profit above safety, manipulates emotions, and causes real harm without ever learning from it, what else can you call it? Mr. Krabs is more than just cheap. He's manipulative, reckless, and emotionally detached from the people he depends on most. And while the show paints it as comedy, the impact is real. His greed isn't just a character quirk, it's a system of control, a way to keep Bikini Bottom running on his terms. He's not twirling a mustache or plotting to blow up the town, but sometimes the scariest villains are the ones who smile while they ruin lives. Why does Mrs. Puff hate SpongeBob? Mrs. Puff's job is to teach students how to drive, but when it comes to SpongeBob, it's obvious she's completely lost hope. She doesn't just seem annoyed, she genuinely hates him.
I think it's safe to say you have once again failed your driving test!
But Mrs. Puff...
No buts, SpongeBob. You fail this test over and over. I'm beginning to believe you're simply unteachable.
Every time he walks into class, she looks like she's already bracing for disaster. Every time he gets behind the wheel, she's full on panicking. And every time he fails, she's the one who ends up paying the price. But why? What did SpongeBob even do to make his own teacher despise him so much? Let's break it down and figure out the real reason Mrs. Puff can't stand SpongeBob. Part 1. Mrs. Puff's never-ending nightmare. The main reason Mrs. Puff can't stand SpongeBob is pretty straightforward. He's turned her life into a total nightmare. Every single time he shows up to class, chaos follows. Sure, most students have a hard time with boating at first, but SpongeBob is in a league of his own when it comes to being terrible. No matter how many lessons he takes or how many techniques he tries, he always messes up. And not just in small ways, but in the most over-the-top, disastrous ways possible. It's like he's cursed when it comes to driving, and Mrs. Puff is the one who has to deal with the fallout every single time. A perfect example of this is in Boating School, where Mrs. Puff gives SpongeBob clear instructions, but his overthinking causes him to lose control and destroy everything in sight. At first she tries to be patient, but as SpongeBob continues to fail, you can see her hope slipping away.
What's the first thing you do?
Start the boat.
Mrs. Puff! Mrs. Puff!
Whoa! What?
It's okay.
It gets even worse in No Free Rides, where Mrs. Puff is so desperate to get rid of SpongeBob that she forges his boating license. She knows he's not ready, but at this point, she'd rather risk the safety of the entire city than have him in her classroom one more day. Do you think you would do the same? Subscribe if you said yes. Then there's Doing Time, where Mrs. Puff is sent to jail because of SpongeBob's reckless driving. This episode really shows how much she blames him for her suffering. She ends up behind bars, completely miserable, and when she realizes SpongeBob is visiting her, she loses it. Instead of seeing SpongeBob as just an annoying student, she sees him as a punishment she can't escape from. And that's really the core of Mrs. Puff's hatred. SpongeBob isn't just a bad student, he's the worst student she's ever had. He's caused her physical pain, mental exhaustion, and even legal trouble. Every time she gets a chance to live a normal life, SpongeBob finds a way to ruin it. Remember this, we will need it later. Part 2. The emotional toll of teaching SpongeBob. At first, Mrs. Puff tries to be professional. She knows SpongeBob isn't great at boating, but she still tries to help him. However, over time, it becomes clear that SpongeBob is unteachable. He doesn't improve, he doesn't learn from his mistakes. Instead, he keeps making things worse, and that slowly breaks Mrs. Puff. In Bumper to Bumper, Mrs. Puff realizes that SpongeBob physically cannot pass his test. No matter what she does, something always goes wrong. She's so defeated that she actually starts hallucinating about him while trying to teach other students. Then there's Demolition Doofus, the episode where Mrs. Puff finally snaps. After years of pain, accidents, and stress, she reaches her breaking point and actually tries to get rid of SpongeBob permanently. She enters him into a demolition derby, hoping he'll finally destroy himself. Of course, things don't go as planned, but this episode proves that her hatred for SpongeBob isn't just frustration anymore, it's turned into desperation.
Mrs. Puff, it's you! And you're all puffy again. Now everything's back to normal.
Yes, perfectly normal.
But what makes it even worse is that Mrs. Puff knows she can't escape. In multiple episodes, she's tried different methods to get rid of SpongeBob, whether it's giving him his license illegally, running away, or even changing her identity. But it never works. SpongeBob always finds a way back to her, no matter what she does. At this point, it's clear. Mrs. Puff doesn't just hate SpongeBob because he's bad at driving. She hates him because he's ruined her life, and no matter what she tries, she can't escape him. Part 3. Why can't SpongeBob just pass? If Mrs. Puff's entire job is teaching students how to drive, then why can't she just pass SpongeBob and move on? Why does he always fail? Well, the show actually gives us a few clues. One of the biggest reasons is revealed in Mrs. Puff, You're Fired. When a strict new instructor takes over SpongeBob's lessons, he actually starts driving perfectly. This suggests that Mrs. Puff might be part of the problem. She's been so traumatized by SpongeBob's failures that she expects him to fail, and that anxiety makes things worse.
Left turn at pebble number 143. Kid with a ball. Nice boy.
Nice driving. Now parallel park up ahead. Very good. Now, boy, the time has come to show Mr. Fitz what you learned.
Yes, sir! Step 1, seatbelts.
Excellent work, cadet.
Another theory comes from boating buddies, where SpongeBob reveals that he's never failed a test before, except for boating school. This is really interesting because it shows that SpongeBob can learn new skills.
What am I supposed to do?
You do the same thing that everybody else does who fails the test. You take it again next week.
Next week?
Don't worry, Squidward. I've never gotten one answer right on this test. But we'll meet again next week at Mrs. Puff's boating school.
So why does he struggle so much with boating? One explanation is that SpongeBob just wants to please Mrs. Puff so badly that he overthinks every little instruction, turning his natural confidence into complete panic. He tries so hard to get things right that he ends up messing up every time. Remember when I said we would need this later? This is why the cycle never ends. SpongeBob's desperation to succeed makes him nervous. His nervousness leads to failure, and his failure keeps Mrs. Puff trapped in her personal nightmare. Final thoughts. Will Mrs. Puff ever escape? Mrs. Puff's hatred for SpongeBob isn't just about annoyance, it's deep, personal, and exhausting. He's wrecked her classroom, destroyed her mental health, and even gotten her arrested. Every time she thinks she's free, SpongeBob finds a way to pull her back in. And the worst part? She knows it's never going to stop. At this point, it's hard to say if Mrs. Puff will ever escape SpongeBob. The show makes it clear that she's stuck in this cycle forever. But one thing is for sure, she's not just an angry teacher, she's a victim of Bikini Bottom's worst driver, and she knows it. Patrick Star is SpongeBob's lovable sidekick. But what if he's more trouble than he's worth? From broken laws to broken homes, Patrick's chaos isn't just harmless fun, it's a town-wide headache. And by the end of this video, you'll see why Bikini Bottom might secretly hate him more than anyone else. Part 1. Patrick's reputation problem. At first glance, Patrick Star seems harmless. He's slow, cheerful, and mostly keeps to himself under that rock of his. But if you live in Bikini Bottom long enough, you start to realize something. Patrick isn't just a lovable idiot, he's a walking disaster. Time and time again, Patrick inserts himself into situations he doesn't understand, makes them worse for everyone around him, and then walks away like nothing happened. And the worst part? Nobody ever holds him accountable. Take the episode Big Pink Loser. Patrick becomes obsessed with copying SpongeBob in hopes of winning an award. Sounds innocent, even sweet, but in his attempts to help, he nearly burns down the Krusty Krab, destroys the supply room, and proves he can't even walk in a straight line without causing damage. What starts as a harmless plan turns into a 1-star Yelp review waiting to happen. But what really stings is that SpongeBob still encourages him, and that's the heart of the issue. SpongeBob's blind loyalty gives Patrick a free pass for behavior that anyone else in town would be called out for. So while Patrick stumbles through life in blissful ignorance, the rest of Bikini Bottom is left dealing with the fallout. Look at I Had an Accident. SpongeBob becomes terrified of the outside world, and Patrick, along with Sandy, creates a fake outdoor setting to help him recover. It almost works, until Patrick punches a gorilla in the face. Yes, a gorilla. What follows is a full-scale panic as the gorilla terrorizes everyone. The entire plan collapses into chaos because Patrick couldn't follow one simple rule: don't mess it up. This kind of pattern shows up constantly. Patrick wants something. Patrick tries to help. Patrick ruins everything. And instead of apologizing, he stares blankly and says something completely unrelated, like, "I can't see my forehead." The citizens of Bikini Bottom are used to being weird. But Patrick isn't just weird, he's dangerous in the way only someone totally unaware of their impact can be. They're not frustrated because he's dumb. They're frustrated because he never learns, he never improves, and no matter how many times he causes problems, it's always someone else left to clean up the mess. So while SpongeBob sees a best friend, Bikini Bottom sees something else entirely. A storm wrapped in a starfish. And the longer he sticks around, the more tired the town gets of pretending it's fine. But before we uncover the real truth behind Bikini Bottom's hatred against Patrick, you should subscribe to the channel because there is about 97% of you who didn't subscribe yet. Part 2. The chaos Patrick leaves behind. Patrick isn't evil. He's not scheming or calculating, but that's what makes it worse. He doesn't have to try to cause chaos. It just follows him. In Bikini Bottom, most characters have jobs, roles, some kind of structure. Mr. Krabs runs a business, Sandy invents, Squidward complains and plays his clarinet, but Patrick, he contributes nothing. No job, no responsibilities, just a full-time agent of distraction. And that would be fine if he stayed in his lane. But Patrick doesn't stay anywhere for long. In No Nose Nose, Patrick decides he wants a nose. Sounds harmless, right? But after he gets one, he becomes obsessed with smells. He starts insulting everyone in town for how they stink. He doesn't just quietly react, he goes on a full crusade to clean up Bikini Bottom, driving everyone crazy with his unsolicited judgments. The townspeople literally beg him to stop, but does he? And it's not just emotional chaos. Patrick gets physical. In Stuck in the Ringer, SpongeBob gets literally stuck in a ringer and asks Patrick for help. Patrick responds by forcing him to live life like everything's normal, dragging him around town in pain, pretending nothing's wrong. Instead of fixing the problem, Patrick gaslights SpongeBob into thinking this is just how things are now. And the worst part? He's genuinely trying to help. That's what makes him so hard to deal with. His intentions and his results never match. But one of the strongest examples of Patrick becoming a town-wide menace is in Patrick Smartpants. For one brief moment, Patrick becomes intelligent. He uses full sentences, studies marine biology, even corrects SpongeBob on facts. And you know what happens? He stops being a problem. For a while, he's actually a functioning member of society. But when he goes back to his old self, it's like Bikini Bottom lets out a collective sigh of defeat. It's not about Patrick being dumb. It's about what he does with that dumbness. He wanders into other people's lives, makes things harder, and then disappears like nothing ever happened. No growth, no change, no responsibility. Even Plankton, who's supposed to be the town villain, has a plan. Patrick, he doesn't even know what day it is. So when people roll their eyes at him, when they avoid him, when they mutter under their breath, the moment he walks into a room, it's not because they're mean, it's because they're tired. Tired of the noise. Tired of the chaos. Tired of pretending that he means well is enough to excuse the stress he leaves behind. In a town that thrives on weird, Patrick isn't just weird, he's unpredictable, untethered, and unfixable. And for Bikini Bottom, that makes him more exhausting than almost anyone else. Part 3. When Patrick crosses the line. It's easy to laugh off Patrick's behavior as harmless stupidity. He's SpongeBob's lovable best friend, the comic relief, the dummy with a good heart. But there are moments in the show where that line between clueless and cruel gets blurry. And Bikini Bottom remembers those moments. In The Card, Patrick becomes obsessed with protecting a trading card that SpongeBob cherishes. But instead of being helpful, he treats SpongeBob like a child, refusing to let him even touch the card he spent all day looking for. Patrick holds it over his head, literally and figuratively, believing he's doing the right thing while completely ignoring what SpongeBob actually wants. And when the card eventually gets ruined, Patrick shrugs it off like it's no big deal. It's a small moment, but it shows how often Patrick takes control under the excuse of helping, when really he's just being selfish. In I'm with Stupid, Patrick takes things a step further. He invites his parents over and pretends that SpongeBob is the dumb one, just so he can look smart by comparison. Think about that. SpongeBob, his best friend, supports him every day. And Patrick throws him under the bus without a second thought. And when SpongeBob finally has enough and reveals the truth, Patrick still acts like the victim. And then there's Yours, Mine, and Mine, where SpongeBob buys a toy for both of them, but Patrick refuses to share it. He hogs the toy, breaks it, and blames SpongeBob for ruining the fun. No lesson, no remorse. Just more selfishness disguised as cluelessness. The problem is, Patrick never really pays for any of it. He walks away from each episode with a goofy smile and zero consequences, while everyone around him, especially SpongeBob, is left picking up the pieces. And Bikini Bottom notices. Patrick might be seen as harmless, but when you look at his track record, he's a repeat offender of emotional damage. Not because he wants to hurt anyone, but because he never thinks about how his actions affect others. That's the part that stings. Not the destruction, but the complete lack of accountability. So when the town seems cold toward Patrick, when they roll their eyes or avoid getting involved with whatever he's up to, it's not personal, it's survival. Because one minute he's licking a rock, the next he's throwing the entire town into chaos because he thought the sun stole his ice cream. At some point, even the most patient community gets tired of pretending that one person's chaos is everyone else's responsibility. Final thoughts. Why Bikini Bottom hates Patrick. Patrick isn't hated because he's dumb. He's hated because he never learns. He causes mess after mess, hurts people, drags them into nonsense, and then shrugs it off like none of it mattered. And that kind of energy, over time, wears people down. He's the friend who shows up uninvited, eats all your snacks, breaks your furniture, and then leaves without saying thank you. And you still feel guilty for not wanting him around. So maybe the real reason Bikini Bottom hates Patrick is simple. They're exhausted, not because he's a monster, but because he never tries to be better. He never grows. He just floats through life, pulling everyone into the whirlpool of his bad decisions. And in a town already filled with chaos, that kind of thoughtless energy isn't quirky. It's dangerous. The real reason why Squidward Q Tentacles hates SpongeBob SquarePants. Squidward the grumpy, sarcastic neighbor who can't stand SpongeBob. But have you ever stopped to think why Squidward really hates him? Sure, SpongeBob's annoying, but is that all there is to it? Or is there something deeper going on beneath Squidward's bitterness? In this video, we're going to break it all down and explore how unfulfilled dreams, jealousy, and emotional frustration might actually be at the heart of Squidward's hatred. By the end, you might see their relationship in a whole new light. Part 1. The obvious reason. Let's start with the obvious. SpongeBob is super annoying, and Squidward is his favorite target. SpongeBob's non-stop laughter, endless energy, and total lack of boundaries make him impossible to ignore. Squidward just wants to live a calm, quiet life, but SpongeBob is always there to crash the party, whether Squidward likes it or not. A perfect example is in the episode Boating Buddies. Squidward gets forced into boating school with SpongeBob, and what should have been a simple lesson turns into complete chaos. SpongeBob follows him everywhere, calling him his buddy, which drives Squidward insane. Then there's Bubble Stand, where SpongeBob's bubble-blowing hobby becomes a noisy, over-the-top spectacle right outside Squidward's house. No matter how hard Squidward tries to ignore him, SpongeBob always manages to get in his way. At one point, Squidward even tried to blow a bubble himself, but of course, it only led to more chaos. But here's the thing, if it were just about noise, Squidward would have found a way to tune it out by now. There's something deeper fueling his frustration, something emotional that goes beyond annoyance. Keep this in mind, we will need it later. Part 2. Unfulfilled dreams and jealousy. Squidward's bitterness comes from a place of deep disappointment. He sees himself as this incredible artist and musician, destined for greatness, but life hasn't gone that way at all. Instead of playing in sold-out concerts or showcasing his art in fancy galleries, he's stuck working a dead-end job at the Krusty Krab, ringing up orders day after day. It's like he's constantly being reminded of the life he thought he'd have. And SpongeBob, with his endless energy and optimism, just makes it all feel worse. He's like a walking reminder of everything Squidward hasn't achieved. In Artist Unknown, Squidward teaches an art class, hoping to prove himself as a great artist. But SpongeBob accidentally creates a masterpiece that outshines anything Squidward could make. No matter how hard Squidward tries to destroy it, SpongeBob's natural talent steals the spotlight, leaving Squidward humiliated. Then there's Band Geeks. One of the most iconic episodes. Squidward gets the chance to lead a marching band and finally earn the respect he's been craving.
Brass section, go! Good! Now the wind! And the drums!
At first it's a disaster, but SpongeBob's leadership saves the performance, giving Squidward a rare moment of glory. However, even in his victory, Squidward is forced to acknowledge that SpongeBob played a major role in his success. This whole situation just fuels Squidward's frustration. No matter how much effort he puts in, SpongeBob always seems to come out on top without even trying. But it's not just about work, it's deeper than that. Squidward can't stand how SpongeBob is always so genuinely happy, like he's completely content with his life. Meanwhile, Squidward feels stuck, like he's constantly chasing something he can't reach. It's not just jealousy over success, it's envy of SpongeBob's ability to find joy in the little things, something Squidward can't seem to do. In Squidville, Squidward finally snaps and moves to this perfect, quiet neighborhood full of other squids. At first, it's everything he thinks he wants. No SpongeBob, no Patrick, just peace and order. But after a while, he starts to feel like something's off. The silence gets to him, and weirdly enough, he finds himself missing the chaos and unpredictability of his old life. The episode hits on this big truth. Squidward realizes that SpongeBob's happiness isn't just dumb luck. SpongeBob has this way of finding joy in the smallest, silliest things, while Squidward can't seem to do that, no matter how hard he tries. And honestly, that's what really gets under his skin. It's not just about the noise or the annoyances, it's about the fact that SpongeBob has something Squidward can't figure out how to have for himself. In Breath of Fresh Squidward, something wild happens. Squidward gets electrocuted, and ends up with SpongeBob's overly positive attitude. For a little while, he's actually happy, finding joy in everything and living life with this weird, carefree energy. But when he snaps back to his old self, the bitterness hits harder than ever. It's like he got a taste of what it's like to be SpongeBob, but deep down, he knows he can't keep that up.
SpongeBob, Patrick, what are you two still doing here?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what's the big idea?
That realization just makes him dislike SpongeBob even more, because it's a reminder of how far he feels from ever being that happy. Part 3. The emotional burden. Squidward's hatred for SpongeBob isn't just fueled by jealousy or annoyance, it's also tied to the emotional weight of being stuck with him day after day. At the Krusty Krab, Squidward is trapped in a job he despises, working alongside someone who seems to love every second of it. While SpongeBob views the Krusty Krab as his dream job, Squidward sees it as a prison. A great example of this tension is in Can You Spare a Dime? After quitting his job following a fight with Mr. Krabs, Squidward tries to find work elsewhere but fails miserably. He eventually ends up homeless and is forced to beg for his old job back. This episode shows just how much Squidward feels trapped by his circumstances. No matter how much he dreams of leaving, reality keeps pulling him back to the one place he wants to escape. And SpongeBob, with his constant cheerfulness and unshakable optimism, makes that burden even heavier.
Why don't I call someone whose job it is to fix it? You know why? Because when I need a job done, I get someone with a job to do that job!
What are you saying?
Another telling example is in Squid on Strike. Squidward leads a protest for better working conditions, hoping to make a real change, but SpongeBob's naive enthusiasm derails the strike. He destroyed the Krusty Krab, and now they both have to work there forever. Instead of gaining freedom or improved conditions, Squidward finds himself right back where he started, miserable behind the cash register. This failure isn't just frustrating, it reinforces the idea that Squidward is stuck in a cycle he can't break.
Squidward! SpongeBob!
Yes, Mr. Krabs? Here it comes!
In order to pay off these damages, you two are gonna work for me forever!
Yahoo! The strike worked, Squidward. We got our jobs back. Forever! 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 Forever!
What makes it even worse is that SpongeBob's intentions are never malicious. He genuinely cares about Squidward and sees him as a friend, which adds a layer of guilt to Squidward's resentment. In Dying for Pie, when Squidward believes SpongeBob is going to die, he spends the entire day making sure SpongeBob is happy. Even though he complains and rolls his eyes, Squidward's actions reveal that deep down, he does care. Remember what I said in the beginning? This emotional connection is part of what makes Squidward's life so complicated. He doesn't want to care, but he can't help it. SpongeBob's constant presence forces Squidward to confront his own failures, insecurities, and regrets. And even though Squidward blames SpongeBob for making his life miserable, the truth is that without SpongeBob, Squidward's life would be even emptier. The real reason Squidward hates SpongeBob. So, why does Squidward hate SpongeBob? It's not just because he's annoying. SpongeBob represents everything Squidward wishes he could have. A life full of joy, simplicity, and success without struggle. Squidward's resentment comes from envy, disappointment, and regret over the life he feels he's missed out on. But here's the twist. Deep down, Squidward knows SpongeBob is one of the few people who genuinely cares about him. Without SpongeBob, his life would be way lonelier and emptier than he'd ever admit. It's complicated, but that's what makes their dynamic so real. What do you think? Does Squidward secretly need SpongeBob in his life, or is he doomed to hate him forever? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.